Jamaica versus King Charles, the reparations battle has begun. For centuries, the wounds of slavery were passed down in silence. But now, in a move that has stunned observers across the globe, the Jamaican government has taken the boldest step yet in its quest for justice. In a dramatic petition sent directly to King Charles III, Jamaica is demanding that Britain face up to its role in the transatlantic slave trade and possibly pay reparations for centuries of human suffering. It's a legal, moral, and historical bombshell that could shake the very foundations of the British monarchy. At the heart of this confrontation lies a three-part legal question. Was slavery ever lawful? Were Britain's actions crimes against humanity? And does the UK now have a legal responsibility to provide compensation? These questions aren't being asked in the court of public opinion. They're being sent straight to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, the highest court of appeal in many Commonwealth nations, including Jamaica. And the request didn't come from activists or civil society groups. It came from the Attorney General of Jamaica himself. This is not just another headline. It's a moment of reckoning. For years, Caribbean nations have called for reparations. Now, Jamaica is turning those calls into a formal legal challenge aimed at the heart of the former empire. And depending on how King Charles responds, this could either be the beginning of meaningful accountability or a dramatic escalation in the global fight for reparative justice. The petition that shook the palace. The Jamaican petition, filed in June 2025, marks an unprecedented act of legal defiance against the lingering authority of the British Crown. The three questions posed in the petition strike at the moral legitimacy of Britain's empire and the legal foundations it claimed to uphold. Jamaica is demanding clarity on whether the forced transportation and enslavement of Africans in the Caribbean was ever legal under colonial law, and whether that legacy still carries legal weight today. In other words, was Britain's slave economy a crime even by its own standards? These questions aren't just philosophical. They are pointed legal inquiries intended to force the British Crown into a corner. Jamaica is using the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, an institution ironically created by the empire itself, to ask whether that same empire committed international crimes. By turning to this British legal body, Jamaica is calling on King Charles to confront the past not with symbolism, but with substantive legal action. If the king agrees to refer the case, it could open the door to court rulings with global implications. What makes this even more politically explosive is that King Charles isn't just being asked to apologize or express sorrow. He is being asked to authorize legal scrutiny of Britain's actions, with the potential for reparative recommendations. The monarchy, once the face of colonial domination, is now being asked to decide whether it will support a legal examination of the crimes committed in its name. It's a historic standoff between modern justice and imperial legacy, and the world is watching to see how the king will respond. Jamaica's case for reparations. Jamaica's case for reparations is not based on emotion alone. It's built on a body of historical, economic, and legal evidence. Between the 17th and 19th centuries, more than 600,000 Africans were transported to Jamaica under British rule and forced to work in brutal, inhumane conditions. Sugar, rum, and other colonial exports enriched British elites, while the enslaved people were denied even the most basic human rights. This exploitation laid the foundation for the UK's modern wealth and Jamaica's persistent poverty. When slavery was abolished in 1833, Britain paid £20 million to compensate slave owners, not the slaves. That payout, adjusted for inflation, would be worth over £17 billion today. The enslaved people and their descendants received nothing. They were thrown into freedom without land, education, or tools to build a life. Many Jamaicans still live with the consequences: underfunded schools, generational poverty, high crime, and struggling health systems. The legacy of slavery isn't just in the history books, it's in every corner of Jamaican life. Economists and historians agree. The wealth that Britain extracted from Jamaica was massive. Some estimates suggest that if reparations were calculated based on the labor stolen, the interest accrued, and the damage done, Britain could owe Jamaica hundreds of billions of dollars. But Jamaica isn't only seeking cash. Reparations could also mean debt relief, development grants, land transfers, and educational investment. This is about repair, not revenge. about fixing structural damage created by centuries of theft, violence, and colonial rule. The Privy Council trap. Here's the paradox. Jamaica is turning to the very same institution Britain left behind to judge the crimes of its empire. The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, though based in London, still serves as Jamaica's final court of appeal. It was created in 1833, the same year slavery was abolished, and it represents one of the last direct ties between Jamaica and British judicial power. Now, Jamaica is using it as a legal weapon to question the moral and legal basis of British slavery itself. But for the case to even be heard, King Charles must first agree to refer the petition. He has the discretion to either move the matter forward or remain silent. If he agrees, the Privy Council could deliver an advisory or potentially binding opinion on slavery's legality, which might force the British government to publicly respond. But if the king refuses, it sends a clear message that the Crown is unwilling to confront its darkest chapters. Either choice comes with serious political consequences. Legal scholars are calling this move brilliant and risky. On one hand, it allows Jamaica to challenge Britain within a legal framework that Britain cannot easily dismiss. On the other hand, it tests the limits of post-colonial legal structures and may expose how little control former colonies still have over their own justice. Win or lose, Jamaica's legal petition will likely trigger debates in other countries across the Caribbean and Africa. Already, leaders in Barbados, Belize, and Grenada are watching closely. How Jamaicans are reacting. Across Jamaica, the reaction has been powerful and emotional. For many, this moment is the culmination of decades of activism and scholarship. Elders remember the stories of their grandparents who lived through colonialism and passed down the trauma. Younger generations are reclaiming that history, not to be stuck in the past, but to demand justice in the present. From downtown Kingston to the hills of St. Thomas, the mood is one of cautious pride. Jamaica is finally standing up, not just with speeches, but with legal action. On social media, hashtags like reparations now and justice for Jamaica have gained momentum. Public intellectuals, Rasta leaders, and human rights advocates have applauded the government's boldness. Even within the Caribbean community, CARICOM, there is growing consensus that Jamaica has set an example. The country isn't just making noise, it's laying down a legal precedent others may follow. Reparations are no longer theoretical. They are becoming a structured, strategic demand. Of course, there are skeptics. Some Jamaicans worry that Britain will simply ignore the petition, or that the process could take years with no real results. Others fear economic or political retaliation. But for most, the symbolic power of this moment outweighs the risks. This is about self-respect, legacy, and justice. Whether Britain answers or not, Jamaica has made its position clear. It will not forget, it will not forgive, and it will not be silent. The future of this fight. What happens next is uncertain, but the implications are massive. If King Charles refers the case to the Privy Council, it would mark the first time a former colony formally challenges Britain's slave history in court. If the court rules that slavery was unlawful, or that reparations are legally justified, it could set a legal precedent that encourages similar actions across the Commonwealth. Jamaica may become the first domino, but it won't be the last to fall. If, however, the king ignores the petition, the political fallout could be significant. Many Jamaicans already support cutting ties with the monarchy. This move could speed up the country's transition to a republic, following in the footsteps of Barbados. It could also reignite discussions about removing the Privy Council as Jamaica's final court of appeal, replacing it with the Caribbean Court of Justice. Either way, the monarchy's role in Jamaica's future is hanging by a thread. Ultimately, this is not just a legal battle. It is a test of Britain's conscience, the relevance of monarchy, and the enduring demand for justice. Jamaica has forced a global conversation that Britain has long avoided. And while the king may sit in Buckingham Palace, the real power may now lie in the hands of a small island determined to rewrite the legacy of empire. Jamaica has drawn its line in the sand. The petition is filed. The questions are clear. Now, the ball is in King Charles's court. Will he acknowledge the crimes of his ancestors, or turn away from a reckoning centuries in the making? Either way, history is being made.